Hey, everybody, welcome back to Mission Control, a podcast focusing on executive directors and nonprofit leaders and how they strive to make positive impacts on their community. I'm your host, Paul J. Schmidt, owner and creative video strategist for UnoDeuce Multimedia, and I would like to welcome on this episode Jessica Johns with Storehouse for Community Resources. Hey, Jessica, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing well. I really appreciate you answering the email and wanting to be on the podcast. I think that the story of Storehouse is really cool. And so that's why I wanted it on this show. But before we get into that, since the show is called Mission Control, the way we start it is tell me the mission of Storehouse.
Mission of Storehouse is to decrease poverty and to increase prosperity in communities across Michigan.
All right. So how are you achieving that mission? What are you doing?
We act kind of like a Feeding America for durable goods. So we take in donated household type goods that are essential to your daily life. And then we redistribute those to other community partners across Michigan. So manufacturers, retailers, big box stores have overages of products. They send those by the truckloads to us. We set it up in a retail-like environment and make them available to our community member partners who are then accessing them for a fraction of the retail cost.
Did you develop this nonprofit, this whole ecosystem? Did this come from you?
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
I say yes and no for two reasons. One, because I do have a partner, Nora Reuter, who's been she's got more of a business background. Mine was in education. I'm more of the visionary, but also we're faith-based. So, I say that although I'm the one that was leaning into it and saying that I was willing to do it, I want to give full credit to God that I feel like it was something that He put on our hearts to do. And it was kind of a chicken and egg thing too, where when we first started, we didn't imagine what it would be today. So it wasn't like we had a fully baked plan. It was more as we've grown, we've evolved and really come into, understanding what it is that we're here for.
Well, why did you want to do this? What was the catalyst? What was it that triggered you into going, oh, you know what? I'm going to start a nonprofit.
Yeah. It's a good question. A couple different things. One, I myself grew up in poverty, so I was the beneficiary of a lot of, I wouldn't say charity because my parents were very hardworking people, but I have 6 siblings. There was just not ever enough money to go around really to always provide for the basic needs. So it was always inside me to want to give back. That's why I went to school to be a teacher. Worked around a lot of kids who had rough family lives with a lot of poverty, moved to Michigan, started volunteering at a food bank where the director there was talking about the need for personal care products. She said a lot of the food banks can get plenty of food donated, but they really were short in these other types of material resources. So I went looking for that, came across a broker who said, yeah, we can send those to you. You just have to be a nonprofit. So I was like, well, how do you start a nonprofit? And it's all grown from there.
So how was the process of developing this into a nonprofit for you?
I would say it's much like the journey of any business owner who tries to, it started because they recognize some gap that exists or some way that they can make something better. And then I can say this because my husband's in a startup company of sorts that's not at all the same industry, but just listening to the pain points of building, that a new business, you have all the same situations, like what's our niche? What are we going to do? How do we scale? How do we stay true to the mission? And so it's not been without its pitfalls, but it's definitely a labor of love that continues to grow.
So talk to me about your location, your space. How did you find it? How did you develop it? What's going on? Because I know that I've seen it. I walked around it. It's mind-boggling. So if you could describe it a little bit in your words on what this facility is like and how it's set up.
I would say it's like a Costco for nonprofits. So if you think of a Costco versus like a pantry, a lot of times when people envision the type of work we do, they automatically picture a small pantry where you walk around one little loop and you're out the door, where this is a 35,000 square foot space that's very much set up like a warehouse where you push grocery carts around, you're literally shopping for the supplies that you need. So if you a Meijer or Costco, it's a large retail space that organizations, it's displayed very much like retail. So you come, it's organized by category. You walk around, you select your items that you need, both to run your operations. So you're trying to decrease the cost of your operations for your nonprofit or school, while also helping the people that you're supporting. So it does both things, provides for daily office type needs you might have, as well as just the individual products that they're able to provide to their members.
So, how did you start gathering materials? What was the process of really executing what you developed as a nonprofit? I mean, because you need material to make it run. So,
Right.
where are you finding it? How are you getting it? All that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, we started in 2016. We started with World Vision as our primary broker, I'll call them. They're not a broker, they're a nonprofit as well. But they were taking in large scale donations that they were then distributing out primarily right in Chicago. And when they had called, we actually operate out the side of a church. We do not, I used to attend the church, Frontline Community Church. They were wonderful and very generous. We're renting from them at a reasonable rate. Um, but they had reached out wanting the church to do a clean water run. And so the church had contacted me knowing that I was very passionate about outreach. And I said, well, I'm not interested in doing that, but I'll have a conversation with them, and was describing to them this need for this personal care because I had started a little pantry. And they said, well, we have those supplies. Why don't you drive to Chicago? So my now business partner and I literally got in a car and drove to Chicago and saw their operations. And she's very much risk taker. I'm very much risk averse. So between the two of us, we decided we would give it a shot. And so our first goods came, even though they came through World Vision, if you picture them as a broker, the goods were coming from places like Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart, a variety of different manufacturers or retailers. Did I answer your question all the way?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no
Got
worries.
distracted.
No, that's okay. It happens. It happens. It's you're not running a tiny organization, and it shows. And so it's like, um, well, so how did you build on, like, all right, you went to Chicago, you saw that operation, you connected with World Vision there to bring back stuff. How did you shift it for where folks are starting to bring stuff to you? Because it's a great space, but you have to fill it. So the logistics are key. So
Yes.
how did you develop that logistical process?
Well, through time, I would say I wish I could have recorded every little thing that we did along the way, because it was so, I wouldn't say happenstance, but it was just so, I don't know if chaotic is the right word. I mean, it was just like starting something with that you have no idea how to do. You start with like all these paper processes, and like, hey, I'm going to write out a receipt. I think we have to track where these goods are going. We should write out this receipt. Oh, maybe we should put it in Excel. Maybe we should use QuickBooks. I mean, there was just an evolution of processes that I think are probably not the same as a business, where most businesses probably have some of those more refined just because they have to. We weren't
Mhm,
really looking to generate revenue, hence the name nonprofit.
mhm.
Um, we also had no employees for the first few years. So it was really, how can we keep this as easy as possible using volunteer labor. We set adjacent to a family farm and home. The first shipment that was coming in, we walked over there and said, hey, you guys have forklifts, will you come unload our semi truck? So they literally unloaded it, and we borrowed some pallet jacks. I didn't even know what a pallet jack was or how to operate it. So that was a learning curve. What I would say though, the first memory, two different things that stood out to me when we got that first shipment was I assumed when I had talked to World Vision, they had said we had personal care products and school supplies. And because of my background in teaching, I knew that that was of great need. So I thought that the whole semi would be filled with just personal care and school supplies, but in came shoes and pillows and blankets, and I became very overwhelmed very quickly because I just looked at it with just like, what are we going to do with this stuff? I mean, it looks like good product, but nobody knows we exist. I don't know how to get the word out. I don't know who needs the stuff. And I think it was a God inkling to me that the church had gotten a call from Family Promise, who's a local nonprofit. It's actually a national nonprofit that does housing, rapid rehousing for homeless people. And they called and said, hey, we happen to have caught wind that you guys got some kind of shipment. If you ever get pillows, let us know. We've been trying to get pillows. And over half our semi truck was filled with pillows. So they brought their box truck the next day and took all the pillows. And it was just cool. And I think it was also kind of this inkling of there's probably more here than what we're realizing. There's probably, more supplies that are available and more needs that go beyond this personal care type of offering. And that's where I would say we finally landed today, is realizing that as the biggest opportunity.
So, in essence, you just mentioned that you you got this huge shipment of stuff, and you didn't know how to get the word out, other than this one connection you made with this nonprofit. But so, how did you start? How did you start telling folks about who you are and what you do, and getting the word out, and getting into maybe even other communities?
I went to every social event I could think of, from Rotary Club to BNI to any networking type of group, and just constantly talked about what we did, invited people in for tours. I've done countless, tours with different people through the years of just come and see our space. I don't even know if I have an ask, or I don't know what my ask would be other than come talk about it. Once you come, you find it intriguing, you go back and you talk about it. And so I feel like at first it was just that, like going out and asking people to come back into the space, giving us ideas like who should we reach out to, how should we reach out, where should we, if we're going to the networking events, what are the appropriate ones to go to. I mean, it was really just a lot of word of mouth.
And with that, what do you feel? Well, first of all, do you miss teaching?
Occasionally, I would say there's a lot of politics in teaching that makes it less rewarding. Teaching and being around children is very rewarding. I really
Mhm.
enjoy the active teaching. I was actually a basketball coach too. So I really enjoy, just children in general. Um, but unfortunately, the industry is just not the same as it was when I first started. So yes and no.
Well, I mean, how do you feel like the your background in education has really helped you in your role today? I mean, you mentioned it a couple times, but more specifically, in your role as executive director, as you lead this organization into the future, how do you feel like your educational background has really helped you?
Well, one of the things I think, if I could think of one mantra that was lasered into my head when I was going through the process of becoming a teacher, it was, I had one specific professor who was just the best of all of them. And she would always say, model, model, model. Everything you do, you have to model it. You have to, not just tell somebody how to do it, but you show them how to do it and you act, so that's what I would say right now is, we're kind of educating the community about how to be impactful, how to view work around nonprofit, not being competitive. Like the landscape of nonprofit work is unfortunately competitive because we feel as nonprofit people that there are limited resources, that we're all competing for limited funds. And I that's the name Storehouse actually comes from a biblical verse, Malachi 3:10, where it talks about pooling resources so that they're more exponential. And so I think just kind of this idea of boy, if we lean in and we work together, we really can have a much larger impact than if we do
Mm.
this singularly. So I would say in that regard, it's that teaching. How do you teach? How do you listen to what the needs are? Educate yourself and others, and teach each other how to, what's needed and how to lean in to be more impactful. Not that I have the answers, but that if I could say, hey, here's how we're doing it, here's where we could see a gap that's not being filled that somebody else could lean into, or just even listening. We're starting to host sessions where we just have other EDs in to say, hey, here's where we see some gaps. What are you guys seeing? Is there a way that we can support more, even if it just means having other guest speakers come in to talk about the landscape. And we know we don't have all the answers, but just constantly trying to educate ourselves on what's needed and how we can fill a void.
Mm. And with that, I mean, what did you feel? Well, let me back up a little bit. How long has Storehouse been around?
9 years.
In 9 years. And so within that 9 years, and as a new, let's look back at your uh, becoming a new executive director. What was the most impactful learning moment that you had that was like, okay, this is real. This is real now.
Geesh, that's a really good question. Not one that I was totally prepared for. There's been a lot of moments, I would say. I think as when we hear, it's great. We've been doing these case studies so our members can respond and say, this is how much money you've saved us over the course of the last few months or a year. Um, and as I've been in conversations where I've heard other people talking about Storehouse, not knowing that I was in the room or that a Storehouse person was in the room, and talking about the benefit that Storehouse played to their organization and the people they supported, was like kind of one of those surreal moments of, yeah, it's not just us trying to tout what we're doing and why it's beneficial, but here, and you're not requiring it. They were just in a room talking to somebody else, and I got to hear it, and that was really cool. I didn't even go over and introduce myself or anything because I didn't want to make it awkward, but it
Mhm.
was pretty cool just to hear them talking about Storehouse and the real world impact it made on their organization and their people.
And speaking of real world impacts, what are some of the plans that you have for Storehouse going forward? What are some of the cool things that you're looking to develop?
A couple really cool ones. My number one is we're building some technology that ultimately what we see is the greatest gap need that will help scale what we're doing, is to be able to build a tool that helps organizations identify what the needs are and match it to a resource. So that way, we not only are able to take in excess goods from businesses and box stores that need to move their inventory, but we can communicate and say, but if you really want to make, you know, a deeper impact, here's what the community is really requesting. So, you had overruns of water because the labeling was mismatched, but what they really needed was um, diapers. I mean, I'm just trying to think of some
Mhm.
different specific examples that if you could say that, and especially if you can build it in such a way that you're constantly giving them that feedback so that they see the impact of the products that they're donating or the funds that they're donating. um, I think that that's critical, and I think especially with AI we can do that in a more streamlined way. So I'm very excited about that. Our three pillars that we talk about, we want to decrease poverty and increase prosperity in Michigan. We want to do it through sustainable housing support, education support, and workforce support. So we're trying to start to build these pillars of what would it mean for us to play in the space of housing. If we can, for example, there are some businesses like Lowe's, Bishop Distributing, some other different building related materials, Ferguson's, that want to donate scalable supplies to us: water heaters, flooring, carpeting, lighting. But we can't take that in at bulk in our warehouse because it's, as you well know, if you're building a house, that's going to move very slow through your space versus somebody coming in to pick up a package of diapers. But if we can connect a resource of a warehouse space for a short term while we move those materials through, that's another way to have a deep impact without it necessarily changing our current operations. So our current operations really work. I would say the best way to describe it is we've refined a way for people to access material resources to support individuals, but the piece that goes to supporting the operations of what they're trying to do, like housing, we're trying to figure that piece out. We see that that's our next evolution, is if we want to play in the space of supporting affordable, sustainable housing, we need to gather those other resources. If we can get the material goods, who are the ones that will be building it? What other resources are needed, like warehousing space, like, that trucking, logistics, more logistics support. So I would say that's kind of that next evolution too, is and then to do the same thing around education, and then the same thing around workforce support.
How do you keep track of all this stuff, all the materials? I was just thinking about that. I was like, I didn't ask that part. It's like there's a
Yeah,
lot of stuff. What are you
yeah.
doing to track all of it?
So we actually built a semi-custom ERP, which is a warehouse management system that tracks all of that. That's now getting connected to this other technology that says, oh, you have that resource. Family Promise said they needed pillows, and your inventory says you have 5 pallets of pillows. So that's the key we realized, was making sure that we were tracking more detail around our inventory instead of just doing it at wholesale values. We had to get more granular with it, which
Mm.
is more labor intensive, hence the reason why we didn't do it at the beginning. But now we are, in order to get the data to say, yes, I have a need and I have a resource.
And what is your range? How far do you reach? Let's say if the storehouse is like centrally located, where your central location is in Grand Rapids, how far do you reach? What is your reach looking
There's
like?
80 counties in the state of Michigan, and we're in 43, I believe. So we're in over half the state. Our goal in the next 3 to 5 years is to be in the whole state. Part of the way we don't physically, it's expensive to operate retail centers like we're doing. So we want to become more of a distributor as we can get our inventory more online to where it's more of a marketplace that will allow for some of that. We also are looking to have more community, a resource being like a community partner. As an example, in the education arm that I referred to, we've got a couple education partners in Detroit that we're looking to, instead of us trying to build our own programming to distribute to schools, there's a few that are focused on literacy and education, and there's probably more than a few, but we know we're connected to a few of them. So we just want to come over with our resources and help them scale what they're doing, so that it's connecting our resource to their work and helping them to be able to distribute those education resources effectively in their community. So as we scale, we'll be looking to have some more of those community partners that want to scale with us, that really see the vision and want to, support it.
So you said you're in 40 counties, 40 counties in Michigan. How
Mhm.
did you reach 40 counties? How did that happen?
It's literally all been word of mouth. We have not because we haven't wanted to. We're still working on. We finally rebranded last year. We got a new website. Now we're getting ready to go through and refine our messaging just to make sure it's all, branded messaging that's on point. But really, truly, the members that are coming are advocating for Storehouse because they see the value of it, and they're going back out into the communities and saying, if you don't know about this, you need to come. So yes, it's all been word of mouth.
Huh, that's amazing. How do you feel about that?
I think it's awesome. I cannot take credit. We have an incredible team. We have a lot of volunteers that literally, I mean, one was out in the warehouse just this morning, and he was here when the first truck arrived. So we call them the three. There were 3 guys who came and helped me start it, and they still, some of them still come today. And so that's pretty cool. They're the OGs.
Yeah, that's great. And so do you have, do you feel like your volunteer database is one of your strengths? Do you have a lot of volunteers? How do you?
Not enough. No, we actually went and hired a volunteer director. So one of the things that, another one of those, like, I've had a couple mentors now during this journey. And when I was going to the one mentor more recently and said, gosh, if we have 5 positions we really want to fill, how do I decide when budget's limited, which one is going to get you furthest fastest? And he said, well, you need to talk to your team and figure out which area is draining them the most. What are they spending their time on that if that position were filled would immediately give them that space to be able to, and we knew immediately it was volunteers because everybody was kind of getting pulled off, and we want to lean in. We need more volunteers. So we need the experience to be good. So we hired a volunteer manager. She's part-time. But I would say really recruiting volunteers, we're not there yet. We aren't doing that as well as we could. Not faulting her, but we'd like to be top of mind. For corporations, we have a lot of great team building type things that corporations can come in because they build furniture or build things for us, sort and pack things. Colleges, senior citizens, or retired people. I mean, we hit a wide spectrum of volunteer abilities and interests. So that's pretty appealing to a wide array. It's more just lack of awareness.
So outside of the storehouse, what do you do to decompress, to pull away a little bit? I know that this is your passion. This is what you do most of the day, but what are some ways that you're able to like get away for a moment? And
Yeah.
what do you do?
I have 3 boys, 2 of which have moved out of the house now, but I still have a 16-year-old who is active in lacrosse. He does it year round. Right now we're finishing up his high school season for the year. Hopefully if they win tonight, they keep going, but he travels throughout the year. So I chase him around some with that. My husband and I like to travel, but just day to day, I like to read. I like to get out. We live in the woods, so we get out and hike quite a bit. Just, getting unplugged and not thinking about anything else besides just being outside and enjoying nature. So those are some of the simple things that I do to just unplug.
That's perfect. And so if anybody wants to learn more about you, like what you have in the storehouse itself, or if they want to volunteer, what's the best way to reach you?
Best place to go is on our website. It's storehouseMI4Michigan.org, storehousemi.org. We also have LinkedIn and Facebook. So if you find us, our legal name is Storehouse of Community Resources. So you have to put that into the search engine for it to come up, or find me personally on LinkedIn, Jessica Johns. Love to connect with them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jessica. This has been a wonderful conversation and learning a little bit more about Storehouse and the wonderful empire you're building over there.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul, for the time and for the interview.
Awesome. Thanks. And thank you all again for taking some time to listen to our program. Don't miss the next episode coming out in a couple of weeks. And if there's someone that you know of and you want to hear about their journey, email us at missioncontrol@UnoDeuce.com. And if this is your first time here, please subscribe on all the podcasting platforms and give us a review. Thanks again. We'll see you next time in the Control Center.